An even more direct threat to American security began to unfold on October the 14th, 1962, when American U-2 surveillance planes flying over Cuba made a discovery.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that the Soviets would introduce nuclear-tipped missiles into Cuba, targeted on the eastern part of the United States. They never had moved nuclear weapons off the soil of the Soviet Union. We didn't believe they would. They did.
It was my father's decision and his own idea. It was only one reason: to show that we are great power and we will protect all our allies, and if anybody will try to fight against our allies, that will mean beginning of the Third World War.
The Cuban Missile Crisis would last for 13 days that October. The president and his most trusted advisors tried to figure out how to get Khrushchev to remove the missiles from Cuba.
As far as the president was concerned, this was a superpower confrontation. It was the Soviets who would put nuclear missiles in Cuba. It was the Soviets who would have to remove them.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union.
The U.S. military was put on the maximum level of alert, DEFCON 2. The president ordered the Navy to mount a blockade around Cuba.
All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, will, if found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back. This quarantine will be extended, if needed, to other types of cargo and carriers.
For 72 hours, the world watched and waited as Soviet ships approached the quarantine line.
They kept coming, they kept coming, they kept coming, they kept coming. So there were these days of incredible tension. Millions of Americans believed that they were about to die. We literally sat and talked about the fact that we were living then out in the wilds of New Jersey, and were we far away from New York City to survive?
I remember that really being a terrifying moment. I was at NYU at the time, and the professor was sitting there, and he looked up at the clock on the wall, and he goes, "Well, they'll be meeting about now. They're meeting now, so we'll just have to wait." And there was like deep silence, and nothing happened, you know. There was a deep breath.
And then the Soviet premier ordered his ships to turn back. In the end, the Soviet leader agreed to withdraw the missiles in return for a U.S. pledge not to invade Cuba.
There isn't going to be any learning curve with respect to nuclear weapons. You make a mistake with respect to a decision to use nuclear weapons, you're going to destroy nations. Both Khrushchev and Kennedy realized how close they'd come, and they were determined to avoid that in the future.